Good day and welcome to the CINCY SLANGIN Bearcat podcast. I'm Coomer, joined as always by Hummer. Hummer, what's up, buddy?
It is 9:47 p.m. March 29th, 2023. We have three mid-majors in the Final Four. We have Conference USA dominating the College Basketball Invitational and the NIT. The Bearcats are nowhere to be seen. The transfer portal seems to be empty for us, and Wes Miller is still wearing Ferragamos. It is a great day to be a Cincinnati Bearcat basketball fan, baby. Let's go.
Indeed, it is quite the intro. It's almost yet Wes Miller still wears Ferragamos. Like, despite all of the bad happenings, despite the, in all honesty, it's been a fantastic NCAA tournament. Thoroughly entertaining. Surprises abound. Our bitter rival.
Are you not picking up what I just threw down? You're not picking up what I just threw down. I'm sorry. I'm going to interrupt and throwing it back to you. There is a chance here that Conference USA runs the table on every postseason tournament this year. Conference USA could have a college, which basketball invitation, which no one cares about, NIT, which no one cares about, and a national championship, all from Conference USA. Best college basketball conference in the country.
You said it first. Cheers to Conference USA. In honor of Go Bearcats, our buddy Go Bearcats, I'm drinking a Glutenberg Pale Ale. What are you drinking, Hum?
I'm drinking a Hacker Shore Municher Gold. It was the beer on sale, the German beer on sale at Costco.
There you go. That's
not sponsors of the pod. They're not sponsors. All right, Costco.
These are not sponsors.
They're not sponsors.
You know who is kind of a sponsor, not really sponsoring it, but a true partner in crime in terms of what we're doing here at CINCY SLANGIN, the Go Bearcats podcast with Brandon. And for those who haven't checked out Go Bearcats, you need to do it. You also need to go check out Viva La Cats. Justin, Steve doing their thing. You know why I'm recommending this podcast, Summer? And trust me, we have never in the history of this show recommended other Bearcat podcasts. In fact, other Bearcat podcasts are what inspired us to start our podcast due to quality issues, quality control problems. But those two podcasts have joined with us to start the Catskeller Social Club, which I must say, Hum, we're about 4 weeks in. It is firing on all cylinders. CatskellerSocial.club is where you'll find written content. You'll see Steve Mauer's wildly cool breakdown of the uniform situation for the Bearcats over the past year, their records, how we performed in each set. You'll read a piece by Chris Baines where he gets into how to actually evaluate this season, whether it was a success, whether it was a failure. How would you classify this past basketball season? You'll read me writing about or handing out awards through the prism of our favorite TV show, Succession. My point is, lots of creativity happening on that website. Our three podcasts continue to produce, in my opinion, the best Bearcat content out there in terms of entertainment, in terms of audio quality, in terms of whatever you want to say. CatskellerSocial.club is popping off. We appreciate everyone's support, everyone who's following along. And I'd be remiss if I also didn't say, join that shitty ass Discord, my friends. The Discord is live. No, join
the
it.
Shitty Discord run by those other people. Let's make sure we get that right. The other people. Here's who these other people are. We're just a bunch of fans. We're out here. We're talking hoops. We're talking football. And frankly, we got no ties to the program except that we were students once. And that we've been lifelong fans. So can we ready to get into it?
I'm ready to get into it. The last podcast we recorded was, I think I titled it along the lines of The Road to NIT Glory Continues. And at that point, the Bearcats were alive and well on their NIT journey. to becoming a champion to, you and I purchasing t-shirts. I got to be honest, we were one win away from me going and saying, fuck it, I'm getting the tattoo if we win this thing. To now
really? You were that close?
For the content, my friend, for the content. But
So
now
you were about to do it for the story.
I was about to do it for the CSC. What I'll say now is we can go back to reality, which is caring very little about the outcomes of these NIT basketball games, because I've been saying it all along. What actually happened in those games was of little consequence in terms of long-term prospects, in terms of short-term prospects. These were additional games. They were opportunities to wash that horrible Houston defeat out of our mouth. And we did that. We defeated Virginia Tech. We defeated Hofstra, lost to Utah Valley at their place, rocking environment, very entertaining game. Just couldn't get over the hump. But now we can kind of move forward. Is there anything else that's really worth talking about from the NIT's perspective?
I mean, let's take into account too that when you look at the prism, the NIT from the prism of where the Bearcats fan, we got the first game at home, and we brought a rocking crowd. It shows to me that Bearcat fans still care. It doesn't matter if it's the NIT or not. We still care. We support this team. We're here. That's a good thing when it comes to recruits. Recruiting on the trail, they care. They don't want to play necessarily for empty gyms. Some people don't, at least. That's why you get guys who are over at Temple looking to come to Cincinnati, because you play at Temple. You're in the AAC. You're still in the AAC. You get a chance playing the Big 12 in front of a Big 12 crowd, the Cincinnati crowd. That being said, we voluntarily gave up 2 home games to make sure that our home court was getting resurfaced and fixed and ready in time for 1, graduation, and 2, the Big 12 photo ops come July. We played 2 of these games on the road, and they weren't exactly the friendliest crowds in terms of loudness, in terms of it. They were true road games. And we didn't necessarily disappoint, at least in one of them, Hofstra. We came out, we put a strong showing up against Hofstra. We did have our struggles. Utah Valley State, or Utah Valley, whatever the hell are they a state? Are they a town? I don't know. It doesn't matter. We didn't really show up against them. It was brick after brick after brick, but we were getting open looks after open looks after open looks. Sometimes the shots just aren't falling. That's what happened. It's fine. It's fair. Whatever. It's the NIT. It's a road game. I'm at the end of the day, I can go, like you said, I can go back to not caring about the NIT because someone had to tell me that Utah Valley lost to UAB. I didn't watch it. Did you guys go out and watch it? No. If you did, good on you.
If you did, you're like, Mitch from Canada watched it. I would also say that, there's college basketball junkies out there. There's degenerates out there. We welcome them.
Could I bet on it? I don't even think I was able to bet on this game. That's why I was like, can't even bet on this game.
I watched it to take a look at what is going to likely be the number 1 transfer in the portal.
Aziz,
my friend. That guy put on an absolute show. He inspired me to make one of probably the worst videos I've ever made, where it was a combination of Aziz haunting my nightmares mixed with Slender Man. No, I don't think anybody understood it. The reality is,
how do we recapture the moment of our conversation about him, comparing him to our Lord and Savior Viktor Lakhin? Is there a way to recapture the magic of where I say Viktor Lakhin he's good from a technical standpoint of in my, like, maybe knowing the game, but he's not the most athletic big. Whereas he's athletic. He can move. He can move quickly. He can get the ball from the elbow and drive into the hole with ease and make a move, where I think that sometimes that's tougher for Vic.
Look, before I get into Vic and the slander that you continue to throw forth here, I do want to put respect on Aziz Bandago's name. This is a name that, again, I expect to enter the portal because He
We're not even
is
going after him, by the way. I don't even think we're a target for him. I don't even think we're targeting for what I see.
He's out of our NIL league, my friend. This is, he's probably looking to follow Madsen to California, who did just accept that job, a bitter rival of his alma mater, Stanford, actually. But Bandego blocks shots, moves well. He terrorized Viktor Lakhin for 40 minutes and had Viktor Lakhin in his own head, missing an easy, 3-footer, 4-footer at the end of the game that would have kept the Bearcats in it and have, a puncher's chance of maybe pulling off the comeback. That's beside the point. I need you to relax with the Viktor Lakhin skepticism that you've been throwing forth to me personally in your phone calls and on this podcast.
Is it
skepticism? Feels like skepticism. It feels like skepticism. Yes.
I think it's taking a look at Viktor Lakhin and what his skill set is and realizing that he is limited from an athleticism standpoint. He's not the most athletic big, and so he is in fact a true 5, where the modern game of basketball has moved to a person more along the lines of Trey Scott, who has the ability to play both the 4 and the 5, who is highly athletic.
Okay, he's not Trey Scott athletic, but he's also 4 inches taller than Trey Scott, 3 inches taller than Trey Scott, longer wingspan, better rim protection.
Would you rather have a Trey Scott profile or Viktor Lakhin on your squad right now? I know it's not an option. I know it's a very hypothetical, but I'm just given the profile of a player like Trey Scott, 4 inches shorter, more athletic, more agile, can play both the 4 and the 5, and can do them interchangeably versus someone who can only play the 5. That's their only position they can play, but he's not dominant when he does it.
All right. This is an interesting conversation. Viktor Lakhin is 21 years old. He has at least 2 years of basketball left to play at the University of Cincinnati. He took an enormous leap this season. In my opinion, by far the biggest leap on this team. He went to double-digit points, 7-ish rebounds a game, rim protection that was consistent when he was on the court, a block rate that was 6th best in the American Athletic, 106th in the entire country. He's a very good rim protector. And again, he's doing this in his 2nd year of playing college basketball. And so when I look at him and say, okay, 6'11", he's not some plodding Abdul Adu. He's not plodding. He can move his feet. He can get around. He can shift. Like, he's not stuck in the mud. When we rebound the ball, he can get out on the break and run with the guards and fill the lane. Now we consider the fact that he's also going from 21 to 22, and then theoretically 22 to 23. There's going to be strength acquisition happening in the offseason. He's going to fill out. He's going to get that man strength in the next 2 years. And you look at the field goal percentage, the ability to finish around the rim, the ability to block shots around the rim. If you add man strength into that and look at this guy, he's going to become a very, very solid big for the Bearcats. And I've had enough of people writing him off and dismissing him as someone who can't hang in the Big 12.
It's not me writing him off.
Project his physical development, and he can hang in the Big 12.
It's not me writing him off. That's not me writing him off. I'm just wondering if there is an actual physical limitation of what we can do with him in terms of the game, in terms of rotation, in terms of set, in terms of personnel when he's on the court. Is he a liability at a certain point? You say 106 in rim protection, but do we need even better than that? Right? Do we need someone who's better than that rim protection? Because we are moving into the best basketball conference in the league. But you bring up an interesting point when you talk about, he's 21 going to 22, right? How the leap he made this year. And there's one thing, and I'm just curious, we haven't been seeing any of the Monster Factory photos. What's going on there? Are we going to see the Monster Factory the way we needed to see it?
Bring back the Monster Factory. Bring back the Monster Factory. I mean, I love Rayfelt. Glad he's here. This was not a season where you would look at the team, look at the results physically and say, yeah, we're one of the best physically conditioned teams in the country. That's not something That's not a way I would describe last year's team. And in terms of physical development year over year, I mean, there's guys you could point to on this roster and say, where is it? Me personally, I'm attributing it to individual effort, individual work ethic. There are guys like David DeJulius, who's clearly in the monster factory. There are guys like Odi Oguama, who's literally born and built for the monster factory. But then, and I would say Viktor Lakhin, to an extent, made significant strides this year. He was like a baby deer his first year playing on the court. Less of a baby deer this year. And give him one more season, give him 2 more seasons. I mean, it's going to go up. It's going to ramp up significantly. So, yeah, I'd like to get back to a place in Bearcat basketball where we just overall the whole team, the essence of the team is monster factory and not just a few players.
Well, I guess that leads. I'm not going to lead us into anything. I guess when we're talking about Viktor Lakhin, and when we talk about what's kind of needed, in my opinion, going into this off season, and I know we're definitely going to get into the transfer portal here. I'm thinking we need to add not a big. I don't think we need a true center. We don't need another Viktor Lakhin. We need an athletic hybrid 4-5. We need a modern 4. We need
I agree.
Gary Clarkish type of big.
I don't even have to go as far as Gary Clark. I think describing Trey Scott would be the ideal fit on this basketball team. If you could somehow find a guy with Trey Scott, affinity for defense, affinity for rebounding, ability to move your feet, defend multiple positions and switch out on guards, and ability to not be a high usage offensive player, spot up, hit some spot up shots, offensive rebound, that would be ideal. And speaking of Trey Scott, I just wanted to circle back to this Viktor Lakhin, what his production was at age 21 in his second season playing with the Bearcats, and what it turned into, what I think it could turn into age 22, age 23. Trey Scott redshirted with the Bearcats. He went on to play 10 minutes a game his freshman year, and he averaged 3 points a game and 2.6 rebounds a game. His sophomore season, age 21, literally the same age Viktor Lakhin is and was during this past season. Trey Scott played 36 games, started none of them, played 12.5 minutes per game, scored 3.1 points per game, grabbed 3.6 rebounds per game, 0.2 blocks per game, 0.4 steals per game. This is not an indictment on who Trey Scott is. It's a quick reminder to people that growth is not linear and that it scales rapidly as you get older. Trey Scott went then to 9 points, 7 boards that next season, up to 11 points, 10 boards his senior year. Folks, Viktor Lakhin's best years are ahead of him. Do not jump the gun and overreact to a finishing stretch of basketball where he's coming off an ankle injury on a team with guards who didn't consistently get him the ball in advantageous positions, and looking over the fact that he also still averaged 11-7, very good field goal percentage, very good block rate. This dude's legit.
All right, just answer me one question. Yes or no? Yes or no? Come on. You got to give me the answer here. Yeah? All right.
What's the question? Yes or no what?
Do Hensley next. Hopefully he responds, guys. I just asked John Rothstein to. He put the tweet about Odi Oguama, and the Discord channel said someone said ask him to do Hensley next. So guys, I did it. I asked John Rothstein to do Hensley next.
Now, yeah, it's all coming for a circle. I don't text during the show, but here.
No, it's all right, guys. This is what's fun about the social club, right? Like, we're here, we're live, we're engaged, baby. No, I get what you're saying, and it makes sense. And I think that Wes Miller is actually going out and trying to find a complement to Viktor Lakhin, because if you can have we're using Trey Scott as like the prototypical example of what you would want. But imagine having him and Viktor Lakhin on the court at the same time. That's like having Viktor Lakhin is Chris Vogt if he actually had talent and actually had skill and actually had muscles and basketball IQ and wasn't the nephew of John Brannon. Viktor Lakhin is actually a good basketball player. Put him and pairing him with Trey Scott on the court at the same time would be incredible. Find another big who's athletic, who can block, who can rebound, who can drive and dribble and pass and vision. It's going to be amazing. And I think that's what we're looking for when we see these reports of who Wes Miller's out there interviewing or doing Zoom calls with. That's the profile of the type of player he's going for. A more athletic hybrid, maybe a little less height, but a little more athletic, and that's fine. I think it's good.
Well, I mean, Lampkin from TCU, Reynolds from Temple, these are both guys that we've been, attached to in terms of portal rumors. These are guys who are very beefy and they're very big, and it's not a profile that would match up with Trey Scott per se, but it is more evidence that would point to if there are going to be open spots this next season, which we can surmise right now there's at least one, right? Because Landers Nolley did declare for the NBA draft. He is playing in that invitational that I think out of 64 players last season that played in this invitational, only one of them came back to college and did have a small suspension.
And can I say, like, I saw like Sports Illustrated or something reported that I guess not going to impact his eligibility, but what you just said completely goes counterintuitive to that it in fact is going to, because the one player did come back, faced a suspension.
Yeah, one player did. He did face a suspension. Wasn't season long or anything. But I think it's more telling that most players didn't come back. And Landers Nolley is not a clear-cut NBA draft prospect. I think size-wise, he has it. He's 6'7". He's not the most explosive athlete. He also wouldn't be relied on in the NBA or most professional leagues for that matter to be like a go-to scorer as consistently. He should be more of like a shooter defender, but he doesn't do much defending. But he also has room for improvement when it comes to more fitness, more explosiveness. So we'll see how it shakes out. I guess the only certainty we got is if he does come back to college, it does appear that he would be a Bearcat. So we don't have to worry about any additional shifting around. It's just it's a question mark as to whether or not he does come back. But with that being the only portal spot open, I am pleased that the names we're connected to in the portal at this point are big men, because going into the Big 12, that was a deficiency this season. With Viktor Lakhin going down, we basically had zero depth. We were relying overly reliant on Odi Oguama, and Kalua Zikbe was a massive disappointment in his 1 year with the Bearcats. We need to have much more depth in the first year with the Big 12.
Yeah, I also think Landers. I don't think Landers coming back. I don't think Landers coming back. He goes to this thing, and at the end of the day, there's one thing we know, which is the NIL collective, which is an ex de facto the budget for the roster, is behind that of other collectives. We have some catching up to do. Landers Nolley may not get drafted to the NBA after, probably won't, at least in my opinion. I wouldn't say he's a draft prospect for the NBA, but he probably could make more money playing in G League, playing overseas, playing somewhere other than college basketball at this point with the skill set that he possesses. I don't see him going to, one of a school, let's put it this way, a school with more resources than Cincinnati. I don't see him getting paid to go somewhere else to provide exceptional value to make someone have that push for the Final Four, right? At this point, we're starting to think of how can you get guys in the transport to give you the push to that next level. How do we get to the Elite Eights? How do we get to the Final Fours? And I don't see Landers Nolley as the guy that's getting you that push on some of these other rosters, that he's the missing piece. So I think he goes elsewhere to find his buck. And that's fine with me. I get it. I would do the same thing. Go get your money while you can. because it's only going to last so long. Go and get it.
You know who Landers Nolly kind of reminded me of? And it's a pretty apt comparison. If you don't think so, let me know. But Johnny Juzang from UCLA gave me Landers Nolly reminded me of him. Juzang was 6'6", is 6'6", wasn't a very explosive athlete, operated largely in the mid-range while at UCLA, but could extend out the three-point range, and came back for that extra year of college because he, maybe when his stock was high on that, I think it was that Final Four run they went on during Mick's second season with the team. He could have went to the NBA draft. Maybe he would have been a late first round pick, decided to come back. Stock went down even further. Now he's playing in the G League. He's 22 years old. In the G League, he's averaging 19 points a game, 5 boards, and did just sign a 2-way contract with Salt Lake City. I don't see that much of a difference in terms of what Landers Nolly can bring to the table and what Johnny Juzang can bring to the table. So, and especially when with the shooting you saw from Landers Nolly down the stretch, which was on some pretty questionable shot selection at times. And if you clean that up, this is a guy who's very much a knockdown 3-point shooter, and he has really good size and can play positions that are, very highly coveted at the next level. So I tend to agree with you. If I was a betting man, Landers Nolly is not playing college basketball next season and ends up probably G League as his landing spot.
And like I said, nothing wrong with that. I'm all for. We would
No
all do
shame
the
at all.
same thing. We would all do the same thing, man. Go get yours. Go get what you deserve.
Yeah, no shame whatsoever. The G League does have better visibility than it used to. It's you do see players go from G League to NBA more than you used to. It is more of a true developmental league at this point. So, for folks who maybe are poo-pooing that idea, I don't think it's that far-fetched. There's no reason you can't continue developing in the G League, whereas, versus Big 12 basketball, you can develop in both.
The only difference between G League and college basketball is that there is more talent in the G League, because you can only play so many years in college basketball before you are forced to go to the G League. And they cut you when you don't make the G League. You don't get to keep your scholarship. It's not a charity league. It's you're gone. Either be the best or we cut you. Have something to offer us or we cut you. The biggest difference there is when it comes to money is that the universities have a following based off alumni, brand equity. The G League doesn't have brand equity, which is fine if that's because they're not going to build that overnight. And it's frankly, minor league baseball doesn't have a big following, and it's never going to. Neither is the G League. The only reason NCAA basketball has a following is because of the brands that they built over years of being amateur basketball. So at the end of the day, that's where you go for the developmental. They're going to pay you. They're going to pay you because they want to hold on to you because you might have value for them at the NBA level.
As good of analysis as you'll get on that topic.
Yeah.
I did want to, this is a terrible transition. There's no effort to actually transition here, but it is something.
You just had just a very, I just had a very just distinct point. There's no way to soft transition. This is a hard stop. We're moving on to the next topic.
Yeah. Like, speaking of development, our portal action is developing slowly. So I ask, transfer portal and the lack of news, that news being Odio Guama returning and Landers Nolly departing, and we're attached to several players in the portal, but we're not really sure where their spots are coming from or if they're coming. Transfer portal. Panic or don't panic? Where are you at right now?
I have turned the hot water to the middle, or all the way up, if you would, maybe, to panic. But I've also turned the cold water halfway up to make the water lukewarm here. I see this neither as great or good. I see this as on one hand, not players not wanting to leave. Look at the logic that we have here. Look at the roster construction that we currently have. We've only lost 3 4 if you include Landers, right? So let's take that out for a second. But the three seniors we know that are leaving are already replaced. Day, Rayvon, and Jizzle, right? So if you're bringing that in, 3 freshmen and a JUCO transfer, everybody else staying, Ma knows he's probably not losing significant playing time handling the basketball. We don't have a senior leader dribbling the ball up the court. So he thinks that my playing time's safe. And Jeremiah Davenport, Cincinnati kid, he doesn't want, I doubt he wants to leave. He doesn't, I doubt he wants to go to California at this point in his basketball. I don't know. I'm just thinking from gut here. But my point is the way this roster is constructed, these players who are here still are going to see playing time because it's a necessity. There's no one leaving, right? If everybody stays, it's the roster basically remains the same. You have to have freshmen replace you. So you're saying to yourself, well, let these freshmen outplay me. But that's also saying to me that these guys love Wes Miller. They love playing for Wes Miller. They believe in Wes Miller's vision, and that gives me hope. But it also gives me fear because we've seen what they can do. But the biggest thing it gives me is we get to see what Wes Miller is truly made of as a coach next year because the control variables have stayed the same. Are you a good coach or are you not? We going to see improvement from players? Are we going to see you squeezing the best out of the talent that you have on the roster to improve over last year? Or are we going to slide? Are we going to see the same type of play? Are we going to see the same mistakes, the same terrible shot selection? So that part, I think, is like a positive is that we'll get to see Wes Miller and what his mettle is. On the flip side, if we see people depart, then we get to see what Wes Miller's is really like on the recruiting trail. Are you actually an elite recruiter?
It's an interesting thought. And I can see where you're trying to go with it. If just because, bringing back the same guys, most fans look at it like a losing proposition because most fans can't envision the experienced players on this team taking steps forward. And I, in many ways, am one of those people. I think some of it is there's physical limitations. I think that we've seen very almost impossible amounts of self-delusion with some of these players who just refuse to tweak how they play the game and adjust.
Jeremiah Davenport.
And it's led them to being, as inefficient as they've ever been, their senior year. And that just shouldn't happen. I also think the problem with your theory is you bring back everybody, you add, 2 freshmen and a junior college transfer, and let's say, you fill Landers Nolly's spot.
Wait, let's not just a junior college transfer. This is the number 4 ranked junior college transfer in the country, and we have had success historically with high-rated junior college transfers.
Yeah, and a lot of that was in the early 2000s or the 90s. Like, how relevant is that actually today? I have no idea.
How relevant? We'll find out. But we have had success with it. We can't just write it off as, some JUCO player coming here. No, like he's highly recruited. We've actually got to see him play at a higher level, higher than high school. We've got to see him actually play at a higher level. We get a little bit of what's out there, and it doesn't cost us a whole lot of equity. And we get him for 2 years.
You're ignoring the fact that all of those guys you're bringing back and the ones you're adding to the fold are replacing a huge chunk of our offensive production. David DeJulius and Landers Nolly. Landers Nolly the second, that is.
Sorry, Landers Nolly the second hasn't been replaced yet. He's the guy that we're going to the portal to find.
But we're likely going to be going after a big in that spot. We're not an offensive juggernaut.
David DeJulius's production is theoretically being replaced by Day.
I think I like the angle that next year shows and is a reflection of Wes Miller's coaching chops. But I think that losing to Julius and Nolly is too obvious of a built-in excuse to just accept bad results. And so for me, knowing you're moving into the Big 12, knowing that the level of competition is going up significantly. And I'm not just talking about talent. I'm talking about coaching. Like the coaching we're going to see in the Big 12 is night and day. You've obviously Kelvin Sampson's coming along to the Big 12, who I think is a top 5 coach in America. You've also got Jerome Tang, who proved himself to be exactly what Kansas State thought they might be getting. He took Kansas State from being projected last in the Big 12 to making the Elite Eight in his first year on the back of incredibly creative coaching. You saw wildly cool out of timeout plays where they're running like screen passes similar to the Chiefs. You're seeing him run a fake dispute with his point guard that leads to an incredible alley-oop dunk to Keontae Johnson with less than a minute to go in the game to take a lead. You know, this isn't Kansas anymore, Hummer, except it is. We're going to be playing fucking Kansas.
You're also seeing that stuff in the NCAA tournament where this is the end of the line. This is survive and advance. This is do what you need to do. This is the craziest play that you've had all year. We've seen the Bearcats in history run plays like that. Granted, it was also what you would describe as a top 5 coach, if not of all time, top 10 coach of all time, and Bob Huggins calling the airmail against Duke. I mean, you're going to see that in the tournaments. And so great. I'm glad we're seeing that. The thing is, though, right now where the Bearcats program is and where Wes Miller picked it up is, he picked it up at rock. God, fuck you, John Rothstein. Fuck you. He picked it up at rock bottom. He picked it up as we just fired a coach after 2 years. The whole team was ready to transfer. You have to not only soothe over those players to get some of them to return, so you actually have a fucking roster put together that's not made of just, you know, city transfers who knew they have no chance of winning, even in one of America's. I don't even know what you want to describe the American Athletic Conference in terms of mid majors.
I would just
Houston
call it
being the only good team in the American Athletic actually being Houston.
By the end, it was just an incredibly depressing conference. That's how I would describe it. There was no buzz. Like you look at the American Athletic Tournament, there's no buzz.
To that, and also having, and I said this on the last pod, you had an alumni base, not us, the alumni, the actual fans, the alumni base of former players against you because of false reporting. And that we had Eric Martin being the guy who everybody thinking was going to be Eric Martin. So like there was so much going against him that yes, he's had to build this up. And we are not. It sucks, guys. Let's grip the reality here. Our NIL collective has just gotten started. It's not there. We don't have the funds to go out and get the number 1 guy in the portal. We don't have the funds to build a squad of the top 20 out of the top. Let's widen it to the top 50 and go get 3 of the top 50 portal guys. We don't have the funds to go get 3 of them to build a roster to get us there. But what we do have at this point is a roster of veterans. We have a roster. Florida Atlantic University doesn't have a bunch of transfers. They have a bunch of guys who stuck together, a bunch of guys who know the culture, who've played together. This is where Wes Miller needs to shine. Be a coach. Get more out of your guys. Get these guys to outperform what their expectations are. Dan Hurley has been with UConn since 2018. It took him 3 years to get to the NCAA tournament. I'm not saying Wes Miller's bar is lowered because we're going to the Big 12. I'm saying it's the same as it's always been. I expect the tournament next year. We didn't make postseason his first year. We made the NIT this year. I expect NCAA tournament making next year. And I don't care that we're in the Big 12. I think that he's going to have experience on his back. He's going to he has his recruits and recruits coming in, and he's going to have a transfer, at least one. We can do it.
What are you talking about with the experience thing? The team we just watched for the entire season had massive amounts of experience.
And they grew throughout the year. They became a much better team between the beginning of the year and the end of the year.
Hummer,
this team at the end of the year is beating Arizona at the beginning of the year. This team at the beginning of the year is beating Northern Kentucky.
They're not.
Yeah, it is.
We didn't beat one team of consequence all year. How can you possibly say that?
We were a much better team at the end of the year than we were at the beginning.
The same end of the year that featured a 16-point collapse at East Carolina?
Yeah.
The same end of the year that featured the same old beatdown by Houston? The same end of the year that featured us losing to Utah Valley the only type of team we played at the end of the year that had equal or better 10 palm or similar ratings to us. Hummer, we didn't beat anybody last year. And our team was full of experience. Mike Adams-Woods, 4 years. Jeremiah Davenport, 4 years. Landers Nolly, 5 years. David DeJulius, 4, 5. Like, this was an incredibly experienced team.
Look,
and they
didn't
cut it in the American Athletics. So how on earth would you expect it to cut it in the Big 12? Which, to me, what I just want to make sure we're doing is if Wes Miller is inclined to bring it back and run it back, except for a couple minor changes around the edges, a couple cosmetic changes, a new slab of paint, I don't want to hear a peep next season about talent, because these are choices. These are roster choices.
We've said this all year long, though. This team wasn't really deficient on talent.
And it wasn't good, though. It wasn't good enough.
But if it wasn't
short on talent, what was it short on, Hummer?
It did get better throughout the end of the year. We got better. We played better basketball. Now
in stretches, rarely for full games.
Let's
rarely
put it together.
We couldn't put three games together.
Put it together for a whole season now. Let's go. Why can't we?
What evidence do you have? Like, this is Fantasyland. I don't even know how could you say that?
We had shitty results the first year with the same core of guys. We had better results this year with the same core guys. The first year we had one. Do we even call Illinois an actual win? It was Coffey's first game back. Super rusty. Do we really call that a victory?
You do call it a victory. You do call it a victory. I know it was hot shooting from three, but it was a solid game. They defended well. Illinois did miss some shots, and they went on to play Arkansas incredibly close the next game. That was actually the best 2-game stretch of Wes Miller's tenure with UC. A 1-1 stretch where they beat Illinois and then lost to Arkansas by only a few points.
We beat Illinois with Kofi coming off of a suspension, first game back. Play Arkansas close, but great. We played Xavier close. We lost. It happens. My point is, we saw improvement with the way they played, moving the ball, less hero ball. We saw this team regress to hero ball against tight teams in close games, against good teams, Houston, the Memphises. Yes, did we have collapses against East Carolina? Sure. Welcome. This isn't a great team. Next year's, that's all I'm saying. The hope I have.
I don't know what you're saying, Hummer. You keep telling me that it wasn't a great team this season.
But we saw improvement. All we saw was improvement.
To me, it's losing the second and third best
players.
College
basketball. It's college basketball. We don't have the budget to go out there and be a fucking Kansas and buy the best players.
That's a cop-out, because
it's not a cop-out.
No. We can't maybe get top 10, top 15, top 25 portal players.
We can't even get top 10 recruits with paying for it. We just got outbought by USC. It's obvious.
There are literally thousands of players in the portal. There are diamonds out there to be found and uncovered. And you know what? It needs to be better than Rob Finney.
So you have
to go. It should be better than Kalua Zikpe. He can find better options than that. We can do better than that.
You have to go find the diamonds. Yeah, it can be done. But at the same time, there's also a certain dollar amount attached to it. And at the same time, you're just not going to find them. Sometimes you're going to whiff and miss. It happens.
Hummer, not everyone's getting hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay? Not everyone.
This isn't doom and gloom. I think the way Wes Miller's contract is set up is to give him time and a runway. And I'm fine with it, because at the end of the day, the way UC is going to win is not by going to the portal and cutting 5 guys every year to find 5 new guys. It's going to be bringing in 3 guys with multiple years, finding a couple guys to fill gaps, maybe for a year or two, but then you're going to bring in 3 new guys and keep building and having a roster of talent. Right now, we're filtering out the talent that John Brandon brought in here that was left over from that era. We're still filtering it out. We're filtering out Maul. We're filtering out DDJ. We're all asking for them to leave, but they won't. That's not his problem in a sense. He has a contract that is allowing him to filter these guys out. Someone is telling him to do it the right way. He is getting permission from the administration to do it. I'm going to put quotations on this when I say the right way, because our view of the right way is to just say, go, leave, push them out. go get portal guys to replace 4 guys on the roster.
Here's where that argument completely falls apart. Because what you're saying is bullshit. Okay. He does have a runway, but when I watch him recruit and when I watch him fill our roster spots, this last season, he didn't fill it with young talent that he would develop over multiple seasons. He filled it with Kalua Zikpe, a 1-year flyer who was meant to offer immediate front court help. He filled it with Rob Finney, a 1-year flyer from Indiana who averaged 5 points a game, 2 assists, and shot 30% from the field because he wanted immediate defensive help on the wing. He filled it with Landers Nolly, who is a big-time portal get, by the way. I might have you know, was a big-time portal get and not meant to be some like long-term investment. This was a 1-year flyer who was meant to help him win games right away and compete for the tournament. And now this season, and over the past 2 years, we've seen him recruit for Isaiah Collier, who's not meant to be some long-term investment. That is the guy who was dominating the McDonald's All-American game until missing 2 free throws late to lose the game. Shout out to Isaiah Collier. He's awesome. That was meant to be a 1-year investment to get us right back in the national conversation. And I might also have you know that recruiting Flory Badunga, that's also not a long-term project. This is a top 3, top 2 player in the 2024 class who could potentially reclassify. But if he doesn't, this is still another guy who would be flirting with one-and-done basketball. None of that, Hummer. None of that is long-term rebuild or slow build. All of that is
yeah. You ready? You ready for this? You ready for this? You ready for this mastery? You named 3 guys who will not be on the roster next year. Right? All 3 of those guys have been replaced with long-term people. Stopgap filled. Dude, he's strategizing with you don't give 5 freshmen, you don't go and recruit 5 freshmen in a year. You stagger them. That way you get experience built up into the roster. So now you have Reed, Skillings. Next year you have Jizzle and you have Rayvon. Then you have Day Day, who has 2 years. Boom, you're layering the experience. Then the following year, you have 4 to 5 guys leaving this roster to fill with what? 2 freshmen, 3 transfers, 3 freshmen, 2 transfers. Dude, it's there. It's there. It's there. It's there. It's laying out in front of us what's going to happen. If these guys come back, great. Next year, it is, in fact, unfortunately, a rebuilding year. But we will be, in fact, losing a bunch of people next year because they have to go. They are seniors. We will be replacing them with more freshmen, with more transfers, and on top of that, having at this point, that'll be a junior Skillings, who we hope has a massive jump next year because he had a great freshman year.
Sophomore
Maybe
Skillings.
He's a sophomore that I'm talking about. I'm talking
about the year after. I'm sorry.
The year after we lose all 4.
Okay.
I think
you're talking about the year after the year that you went from literally minutes ago describing as, hey, these guys have more experience. This is where really going to be a measure of Wes Miller's coaching abilities. We're going to be even better. And now you're literally calling it a tanking year so that we can clear the roster spots.
I'm not calling it a tanking year. I'm not calling it a tanking year. I'm calling it we get to see, can Wes Miller actually coach? Can he get more out of these players? Can we see better basketball against better talent? Are we going to win more games? Absolutely not. It's about playing better basketball. And you and I know that we can see that. We can see if these guys are playing better basketball against better talent. That's not, we can see if they're making better shot selection, if they're rebounding better. They still might lose to a Kansas. They still might lose to a Kansas State. But at the end of the day, we can see if they're playing better basketball. But point is, you're not going to, you're saying like, oh, can he recruit? Can he do this? It's like, all right, what are we going to do? Bring in 5 freshmen this year?
I've been relatively hard on Wes this year. And I think you're almost doing it backwards. Like seeing if Wes Miller can coach. I'm saying I am relatively hard on him, but you going for like, I look at it like if we want to evaluate his coaching with the talent is currently constructed, it should have been during a 2022-2023 season when we were playing against the American Athletic, when we did have a good number of chances to actually pull off victories against teams with equal or better talent. And we did none of that. In fact, as I've said before, we had more notable, terrible losses than notable wins, which was 0. Okay. And yet you're expecting him to lose Landers and David DeJulius, take the competition level up multiple pegs, and now we're going to evaluate whether he can coach or not. Next season, if he's running back the same team, I know what's going to happen.
I think we're past the point. I think we're past the point of, in my mind, I guess I'm saying it because we're past the point of there are no excuses in terms of
there are plenty
bottom.
of excuses.
No. The excuses are gone. You are no longer picking up the program from the bottom of its worst day in history or whatever the fuck John Rothstein called it. We're past that point. It's done. You've had 2 years. This is the third year of you instituting your program and your values and your system. It's here. Show us what you can do with it, with the players that you have. Like, upset someone. Give us some upsets. Win some good games. Are we going to win the Big 12? No. No chance in hell. But win some big games. Give us some good stuff to hang our hats on. But at the end of the day, I think he's actually building a program. I think it's being built. And what's annoying me, and you're asking why I'm upset, and it wasn't just the Reds fan stuff. It's that, it's basically almost like there's an expectation that next year needs to be Final Four quality, Final Four runness from the fan base side. Get rid of these 5 players and we'll just bring in these people and we'll be Final Four ready. That's not how it fucking works. And it's not how it works. Even in the age of NIL, that's not how it works, especially at UC, because we know for a fact we're behind the ball in NIL. We're not competing with the top 10 programs in NIL. We're probably not
top 25.
Fact.
Yeah, we're not in the top 25.
We're not even competing with the top 25 programs.
But we're literally lagging behind our own personal expectations.
Yes. That's my whole point. So NIL, take it out. We are still playing the game the way you do old school, which is,
we should be playing Moneyball. We have to be playing Moneyball, where you are finding better gets. You're doing better
Moneyball
scouting.
is called recruiting.
Right.
And that's hopefully what he's doing. We haven't seen it yet. We haven't had the chance to see if his recruits are panning out. We saw flashes from Skillings. We don't know about Reed, and stop writing Reed off. I heard people saying they want to read the transfer.
Get the hell out of here.
He's a freshman.
That goes back to the same thing I'm saying about Viktor Lakhin. Look, folks, stop it with the immediate results, especially with young players. Let these guys develop. And
thank you.
Frankly, one of the few joys you can still get out of college sports is actually watching a guy come to your university, stay for 4 years, watching that natural progression where they take these incremental leaps, first year, second year, and then, like we said with Trey Scott, all of a sudden light bulbs are going on, and the guys are becoming all conference players and leading you to 25 victories and an NCAA tournament berth. That's the ideal outcome in college basketball. That's what we want more of. And so you do have to give guys like Josh Reed opportunities to develop. You have to give Skillings the leash to make mistakes, which he made a fuck ton of mistakes this season. But you know what? That guy figured it out. That guy started figuring it out. He took less bad jump shots. He finished around the rim remarkably well. His defense was less atrocious, and his three-point shooting actually showed to be pretty solid when the shot selection improved. Again, there's a reason to let some of these young guys develop without writing them off. What I'm saying, Hummer, and what I think a lot of Bearcats fans are saying is all season, a non-insignificant portion of people excused what we're seeing on the court, despite the fact that it was very obviously a coaching performance that left much to be desired, in my opinion. And they blamed it all season on talent. And we have opportunities to potentially make moves in the portal. And we're okay with just running it back because experience and maybe the future. It's like a Sam Hinkie hustle from the Philadelphia 76ers. Like, everything's for the future. We're just acquiring draft picks. We're acquiring open roster spots.
You get 4 years. You get four years at most. Sorry, 5 years. Sorry, super senior, red shirt, 6 years, whatever. You get 4 years at most in out of a normal player. 4 basketball playing years out of a player. You get 2 out of a transfer. This isn't trust the process and build for the future. college basketball is always, it's build for the future and build for the now. You have to, and it's a balance between the two. This difference between NBA is that you can sign guys to long-term contracts. You can't do that in college basketball. If you go and go out to the transfer portal, it is in fact a 1-year rental. It is, you are sacrificing the future for now. So you have to balance it between recruiting and portal. And right now, I think that's where we're at. It's in the middle of this cycle with what we're doing is recruiting and portal. If we're bringing back these players, I'm just not upset about it. I'm not upset about it. If next year is a struggle, fine. I'm not upset about it. I'm excited to see that we're going to have Reed, Skillings, Jizzle, Rayvon, Day. Those guys, right? Well, Day for 2 years, but those are the future. That is how we can tell if this team is actually going to be good 4 years from now, is how those 4 players develop. If they don't, then we know it's time to move on.
I tend to think, honestly, that was a fantastic mental exercise to go through. And it all started by asking the question, panic or don't panic. And despite how some parts of that conversation might sound, I am in the camp of it's way too early to panic in terms of the transfer portal. And I think when you look around and see how many portal guys are showing up with Cincinnati as having interest, I do think there could be an element to this of, let me see what I can actually land before we make any definitive choices.
I agree with that.
And like, some people don't like the feeling of, air quotes, running guys off. I would say that there's several guys on this team who've played 4 years at Cincinnati. Like, they've had great experiences here. We should have honored them on senior night. We didn't. If Wes Miller's not doing it that way, he might be doing it.
Man, it's college.
He might be doing it the way where you just recruit over the top of them and then force the issue after that. So I don't know. It's that much prettier. It's still an ugly game, but I think if you want a coach who's going to win at the highest level in Division I college basketball, those guys are cutthroat. They really are. They're cutthroat.
And they might be. But here's one thing that I'd like to just see us do it in a way that allows us to sustain it year over year and not have 4 or 5 transfers every year. Let's see if we can do it. I'm fine with that. I'm fine if that's what it takes. And if it doesn't work, next time around, we can try it the other way.
It's not, I don't think I'm advocating for 4 or 5 transfers, though.
How many are we advocating for this year?
We need 3 significant upgrades.
So we're doing 3. How many of those players that we're asking to transfer? One was Landers, not Landers. Jared Hensley, who played nothing. We're talking about 2 significant contributors of minutes, and you're saying we need to find 2 30-minute guys, 20 to 30-minute guys who are upgrades.
There's thousands of players in the portal, and if there is a position on the team that we have the ability
and we are the 56th best team according to KenPom, and we do not have a top 25 budget to go out and get them.
2 hot takes. A, Landers Nolly isn't going to be that hard to replace through either probably a combination of mostly through Daniel Skilling's development.
I think Day-Day's gonna. My hot take is Day-Day's gonna replace him. Day-Day's production will replace him.
I like that. B, any KenPom movement in the rankings after the conclusion of conference championship weekend doesn't matter, and you shouldn't look at it, and you shouldn't pay attention to it.
Doesn't matter.
It really doesn't matter.
But that's my hot take. Day. We have replacement for some production on the roster already.
I'm worn out. I'm tired. That was fun.
I'm psyched about this season. Can we get to November already?
Hummer, we'll come back with some more content in the near future. We're going to be having the councilman, Mr. Barnett, back on the podcast soon to talk through some football. The man was basically live Discording practice in the Catskiller Social Club, which was to me like a top 2 performance so far in the Discord. It's probably top 1. It was a remarkable effort. Shout out to the councilman. We'll be getting him back on the podcast soon. I am openly efforting Justin Williams. He doesn't know it yet, but I am efforting Justin Williams, and that text is coming shortly. Besides that, any final thoughts?
If we can get Justin Williams into the Discord, we need us as a social club, our goal needs to be to have Justin Williams quote us in an article in terms of like representing the fans. Like a poll from the fans taken by Catskiller Social Club says X.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Look,
let's leave it there, buddy.
Let's go Bearcats. I'm seriously actually super psyched about November for next year. I'm not going to wish this year away, but God damn it, I'm excited about Bearcat basketball.
I love thinking and arguing and talking and hoping Bearcats basketball so much. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.